Hey guys, week 4. So let's start off with some concepts. First major concept. Oh, hi, buddy. Go. First major concept was emergency preparedness, which is putting systems into place that will prepare a community to be ready to respond in extreme events. Second thing, so that minimizes the negative impact on communities because the information and plans are organized. Another concept I thought was important was emergency managers needing to take children into consideration, so not assuming that children are passive victims of disaster. Encouraging and educating children is going to be the first step in creating a more informed adult population in the future. So, as that article about children was discussing, the groups of children that they were training from a young age, because training is a weird word, but that information that they had was extending beyond the preparedness role into action in risk reduction and even disaster prevention work. So, I'm sorry, that's an important thing to consider. All right, and then when the article discussed emergency management and improvisation versus planning. So it's important to be flexible in your disaster preparedness, but also you need to have plans in place, because if you don't, if everyone is just improvising, then that's going to be even more of a mess. So you need to have your plans in place, so that everything is run smoothly, things work in a timely manner, people know where they're supposed to go, where they need to get to, but remain flexible, because no one can totally predict what's going to happen in a disaster and who will be available, what you might encounter. So being flexible is important. And then the guiding principles of emergency planning. I'm not going to go through the definitions of all of it, but it talked about managing resistance to the planning process. So how do you get people to, the companies and everything, to invest their time and money into planning for disasters, so that when things happen, we have a plan in place. Adopt an all hazards approach, so using multiple personnel and procedures and facilities and equipment for different types of disasters, to kind of streamline everything. Promote multi-organizational participation, again, just many uses for the same people. Rely on accurate assumptions, so we can't predict the future, but we have to take the best knowledge that we have and rely on that information to make decisions. Identify appropriate actions while encouraging improvisation. Link emergency response to disaster recovery and hazard mitigation. Conduct thorough training and evaluation, and adopt a continuous planning process. So always updating and maintaining your systems, making sure everything is up to date with technological advances and with community changes, population changes, all of that. So Muddy Point was more of a philosophical point, but I thought it was interesting in the article about children. So they were outlining some South American countries, and giving those children a lot of emphasis on their decision-making abilities and putting some more weight on their input. But I think that those South American countries, Eastern countries, give their children a lot more freedom, a lot more, at an earlier age, the ability to make choices about their own safety, and just kind of take their own abilities into their own hands as far as keeping themselves safe. Whereas in America, it seems that more and more children are just being monitored all the time. Like they can't get dropped off at the school bus and walk home by themselves. So how are you supposed to take a kid that can't walk from the school bus to their house, and let them figure out what to do in a emergency management situation. Like, obviously the children aren't deciding what to do, but just, I think that the emergency management planning needs to blend into another whole sociological or educational discussion about giving these children the abilities that they need to make decisions about their own safety. So just a thought. And the question for my discussion would be, in the event, so I thought it was interesting, again, some more graphic design and wayfinding things coming into the disaster preparedness, which I'm into. So in the event of a natural or man-made disaster where the internet and phone communications are knocked out, aside from the radio, what would be the most effective way to get clear information out to a group of people or community? So is it signs at major intersections and highways, like, for example, that we have snow emergency routes or hurricane routes? Do we need to have these signs in place way ahead of time? Do we have signs at community buildings? Something to think about, having clear and accurate information for everybody. So that is it. All right, thanks. Bye.